Football is back. Mr. Rogers has a new neighborhood. The rich get richer and so much more. This is Undefined Blitz.
35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
Welcome everyone to Undefined Blitz right here on undefinedradio.com and anywhere that you get your podcast from, and we are in so many places right now. Thank you for joining us right here on the Undefined Blitz. We're your hosts, Chad Martin, JC Martin.
The very first edition of the Undefined Blitz, by the way.
This is episode number 1. And football is back. We're happy that it's back. Fans are coming into the stadiums now, which is going to be great.
They're getting geared up for a huge Hall of Fame weekend in Canton, one that they've never seen before, especially considering they're having to put in 2 separate classes in the same year due to all the COVID complications of last season.
So many, too. And it's great if you're just really wanting to hear a lot of speeches from some of these Hall of Famers. And look, I'll tune in for it. There was a lot of great guys going in that I want to hear speak.
Yeah, and this was something we talked about a few years ago. Like, we're getting to a point with the Hall of Fame now that there's players that I grew up with that are being inducted. So they're inducting guys like Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Edgerrin James, but one of your old favorites, Drew Pearson, is going into the Hall. My favorite head coach of all time, Jimmy Johnson, he's going in. So it's going to be an absolutely massive weekend for the NFL, for the Hall of Fame, and especially for these players who are finally getting to play in front of a live audience for the first time in over a season.
Which is really cool. It's first of all, none of these sports are fun to watch if fans aren't involved.
No,
and staying strictly as fans,
it completely changes the energy in the building.
It does, and so I think that's one of the best things about it. Is fans are coming back. I'm sure there will be protocols galore.
Oh yeah,
here and there. I mean, there's just with the day and age we're in right now, that's just what it's gonna be. So you might as well get used to it. So you can get your complaining out of the way now. For those of you out there who are just gonna complain about it, it's just the way it's gonna be. It's just there's no getting around. We were in Walmart yesterday, and all of a sudden there was a mask booth right there in front of us, kiosk. And we're like, did I miss something? Is there something going on here? This is just the new normal that we're in, folks. So get used to it. Regardless, at least we have football.
Yeah, I mean, here.
There's something great about that.
The wait is over. Football is here. Yes, it's preseason football. Yes, it's the Hall of Fame game. No, Dak Prescott will not play. No, Ben Roethlisberger will not play. The megastars, the veterans who are kind of up there in years or been dealing with injuries for so long, they won't be in this game.
They were never going to be in this game.
However, you will see lots of great young talent. I think the Steelers said that they're planning on playing 3 different quarterbacks. I'm sure the Cowboys will play 3 quarterbacks. Yep. You're going to see Mason Rudolph versus Garrett Gilbert, the game that almost no one ever asked for.
That's right, but it's preseason. That's what you have to expect.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to evaluate talent. The big benefit with the Hall of Fame game is it gives you extra television exposure, but it also gives you an extra opportunity to see what you've got on your team.
It's just funny that this is the year they decided, we're only going to do 3 preseason games. Here come the boys and the Steelers. Still have to do 4.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna
do
the Hall of Fame game, I mean, these are 2 of the best franchises to get for this game.
Oh, no doubt.
Because they're 2 of the most decorated and the most historic franchises that the league has.
Yeah, I like watching the Hall of Fame. I like watching the preseason games because I want to know who these backups are, potential stars, and it's hard to judge this talent and potential talent that you get through the draft, through free agency, unless you see it on the field. With the veterans, you kind of know what you're getting.
You also get the undrafted free agents, rookie free agents. They're going to make splash plays here and there that'll catch your eye. You're like, who is that guy? But he may not even make that team. He might get cut, picked up by someone else, and then turn into a star.
Well, that's the whole thing about putting yourself on tape out there and looking good in preseason. And look, this game is a lot faster than the college game because everybody's good.
I remember specifically watching preseason football one year. It was Victor Cruz's rookie season for the Giants. And he went out there in the preseason game, scored 3 touchdowns, and they were playing the Jets. So, it was basically a glorified home game for both teams.
That's right.
So after the game, the coaches meet at the center. Rex Ryan, asked the Giants head coach, he was like, hey, who's number 3 over there? Because I think that was the number Victor Cruz was wearing.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's Cruz. He's out of UMass. So Victor Cruz, a guy that no one really knew, went to a small school, but he got that opportunity to show out in the preseason.
Yep.
Made the roster for the Giants, and not only that, became one of their key pieces in that franchise moving forward over the next several seasons.
No, and I think this is what preseason does for you. And now we get our first look, tonight at these new potential stars. Who's going to make these rosters? Who isn't? Preseason is where you find that out. Because, face it, when you're looking at OTAs and training camp, they're not going all out.
Or at least you're not supposed to.
Which we will be getting to later on in the show, by the way. Because we got a couple of great awards that we are going to do through Undefined Blitz. I'm excited about these. We got the Big Kahuna Award.
Yeah, so the Big Kahuna is going to go out to the guy who either overperformed or outperformed or was just the best all-around player or maybe had just the general best week that week.
That's right. And then we've got the Drizzler Award.
And that one you can kind of infer from the name exactly what it is.
That's right.
This is the person who either did something terribly stupid or failed spectacularly, had an awful game, or just had a generally bad week. And
we know that happens a lot. It happens a lot, so it's going to be fun. This week's was easy.
Yeah.
We weren't really going to do one at first. We thought if we're doing an opening show with Undefined Blitz, we might as well do it. There is football this week anyway, and trust me, there's tons of news out there. Some that's just, it's head-scratching, but some that's just like, geez, dude, we have to talk about this because this makes all the sense in the world. How some of these teams and organizations run their front offices is amazing to me.
And not only just teams and organizations as far as the NFL, but you got to think about all the stuff that's going on with the NCAA and college football right now and how that landscape is chronically changing.
That's right. And, and talking about, we talk about off-season and the playoffs and all these things, and you talk about training camp, you kind of have to talk about the horrible things that can happen at training camp. Training camp is not just an easy place where you go through and not get injuries. How many times do we always hear, every season, it never fails, somebody's going to get hurt during training camp.
Yeah, and they're going to get hurt, and it's always a named guy that gets hurt within like the first 3 days.
That's right, and this
year is no different.
That's right. There are many training camp tragedies already. We're going to talk about these. I mean, who is the big one that we talked about, like with the Eagles last year? The Carson Wentz thing didn't go well in Philadelphia. Injuries kept after this dude. He moves to Indianapolis in the offseason. They're hoping, hey, this could be the place for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and this team was expected to be completely run by Carson Wentz. Everybody had high hopes that Wentz was going to be able to revitalize his career. He's got Frank Reich back, who was his OC and quarterbacks coach while he was with the Eagles when he had so much success and was contending as an MVP. However, day 2 of training camp, Carson Wentz goes down with a foot injury. It's a bone/ligament injury. And they're saying that this is an injury that possibly goes back to high school, which kind of blows my mind. Like, how did you get through high school playing with this?
And college.
Then you went to college where you had to take, all these different medical evaluations. Mm-hmm. Plus, he's had numerous surgeries. So, I mean, he got through college. He got through the draft process, got to the Eagles, and no one noticed this until now. And it's a weird window. It's a 5 to 12 week recovery window.
Yeah, that's a huge.
You could be out a month or you could be out 3 months. We really don't know. So Carson Wentz, Indianapolis Colts quarterback, takes a huge blow to the team and their morale when Carson Wentz goes down. But lo and behold, wouldn't you know, 2 days later, and nobody but all-pro offensive lineman Quentin Nelson for the Colts as well suffers the exact same injury that Wentz has. And, of course, he's got that same weird timetable, 5 to 12 weeks.
That's so weird.
Although Quentin Nelson believes that his will be closer to 5 weeks. With Wentz, they don't really know, but Quentin Nelson is a firm believer that he'll probably be, in maybe 5 to 7 week range.
Sure.
He believes he can still be ready to go week 1.
It's just weird. It's just kind of crazy. Both of those injuries happen, and both on the Indianapolis Colts.
Right, and it's for not only the best player on the team in Quentin Nelson, but your star quarterback who's supposed to be taking the franchise forward. And a lot of people are wanting to say that the Colts need to go ahead and trade for Nick Foles because right now Nick Foles is the third-string quarterback for the Chicago Bears. And Nick Foles has kind of been like, well, I'm focused on running over here with these third-stringers. But how, Carson Wentz is probably crapping his pants right now, thinking about the possibility of Nick Foles coming in. Although Frank Reich, to his credit, and the upper management with the Colts, they all seem to be in, like, this is Carson's team. We're not trading for anybody else. We will grit our teeth and bear it. We'll run with Jacob Eason. We'll run with Sam Ehlinger. We'll do what we have to do until Carson Wentz can get back.
Look, Nick Foles is great in the twilight zone as the Philadelphia Eagles. And there you go. That's it.
Well, he wasn't even great then. I mean, let's think about it. Nick Foles throughout his career as a starting quarterback has been bad. But he got on a team with a great defense who was firing on all cylinders already. Carson Wentz had that team in a situation where they were just, every Sunday you knew that offense was going to go off. All Nick Foles had to do was not screw up, and he didn't.
No, he didn't. He played well during those games. That's the thing. And you're going, where are you normally? Why is this player not here normally?
But Nick Foles does that, right? So he has that crazy playoff run. You see all his other starts throughout his career, and they're not great. They're not overwhelming, except for one where he threw for 7 touchdowns in a game. That was during his first run with the Eagles.
Which is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Don't even start.
I don't think there's a quarterback on this planet that's as up and down as Nick Foles.
There's not. I just don't think that there is. Because you're hoping that, oh, wow, okay, this is the real Nick Foles, and all of a sudden it's like, oh. I don't think there is a real Nick Foles.
Oh, there's a real Nick Foles. Everyone is what they are.
You have 50 shades of Foles is what you have. 50 shades of Foles. You just never know which shade you about to get.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it was with Ole Miss when they had Bo Wallace at quarterback.
Yeah.
He could come out there against Alabama and play great, or he could go out there against Arkansas and be awful.
No, and that's very, very true.
You never knew what you were getting with him.
The New York Giants had a brawl at camp. Boy, Joe Judge was hot about this.
Oh, he lost his mind, especially because quarterback Daniel Jones ended up at the bottom of the pile after the scrum broke out. So Joe Judge, of course, flips his lid. He makes the team run 100-yard sprints, then feels, you know what, y'all are not running hard enough. So he then has the team line up at the goal line and start doing push-ups. This was enough for newly signed Joe Looney to say, screw this, I retire.
Dude, and here's the thing, too. There's a lot of things that happen at training camp, right? There are rules at training camp. Every team wants to go into the season with their quarterback healthy.
Yes.
With their team healthy.
Yes.
And you want to see players play, but at the same time, you don't want your players teeing off against their own teammates and injuring their own teammates. Well, JT Abe did not get the memo for the Carolina Panthers.
No, he did not. So JT Abe is a rookie undrafted safety. I forget what school he went to. However, he lit up wide receiver Keith Kirkwood. Keith Kirkwood was a rookie last season for the Panthers who had 2 collarbones that got broken. So he broke both collarbones last season. He's finally getting out on the field, ready to go for this season. And eBay hits him so hard that Kirkwood had to be hospitalized. eBay, of course, was sent off of the field, done for practice for the day, and then at the conclusion of practice, he was waived from the team.
God, that's horrible. That's just horrible. I mean, how do you not know how to do that? I mean, that's crazy. But, football. That's why we talk about it. Speaking of football, Aaron Rodgers, man. Talking about, we mentioned earlier, Mr. Rogers has a new neighborhood. It is kind of Mr. Rogers' new neighborhood, well, just because of what is.
He will have a new neighborhood. That's the idea here. So we all know that Aaron Rodgers he's having all these problems with the upper management of the Packers, especially how they've treated former players. If you haven't seen his presser from when he first reported for training camp, it's worth a watch.
because he aired every single grievance he's ever had with the Packers management to the public, had a laundry list of names of players that he felt like had been personally mistreated by the Packers. Guys he thought were great teammates, great locker room guys, great high character guys, valuable within the community for Green Bay, Wisconsin as well. And so they restructured his contract. They voided the third year of the deal. I think they're moving money around. They're doing this. They're doing that. They went out. Aaron Rodgers told him, you better trade for Randall Cobb or I'm not coming back. I'll just retire. So they go out. They get him Randall Cobb back. Gave up a 5th-round pick, I believe, or maybe later, maybe a 7th-round pick. I forget the semantics of it. But anyway, point is, Randall Cobb back in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. They're trying to appease Rodgers. However, they've structured this contract in such a way that it facilitates or easily facilitates Aaron moving wherever he wants to next year. They'll trade him. He'll have his pick of wherever he wants to go. So I thought I'd bring up some teams that could possibly use Aaron. You know, teams that some of these we've already heard of in the works for possibly trading for Aaron this offseason. Didn't happen, as we all know.
No.
However, these are teams that could be still looking for a quarterback next year.
You staying with that mother? There you go. That's the quote.
So, the first team is the Denver Broncos. So, as we know, John Elway has experience with older Hall of Fame-bound quarterbacks.
Yep.
As we saw with Peyton Manning. Things weren't always great in Denver for Peyton, especially that final run that he had.
Yeah.
However, it ended with the Super Bowl victory, hoisting the Lombardi and riding off into the sunset. So maybe this is something that Denver could possibly be looking into. Right now they got Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. And from the sounds of things right now, Denver could already be possibly looking to move Drew Lock if they can.
Don't be surprised. That's all I'm saying. Don't be surprised about that.
The second team on the list I have are the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders, they gave John Gruden a huge contract to come out of retirement. It's like 10 years, $100 million. And, you know, so far they don't seem to be in love with Derek Carr.
No.
They're not really married to him being their quarterback of the future.
No.
They've got a brand new stadium that cost them over $1 billion. So why? And this is their first opportunity to get, you know, actual fans in the seats this season. So next season, why don't you give the fans something that they can definitely look forward to and roll old number 12 out there at QB position?
Or just get rid of more talent. Why not? They had a fire sale on that.
No. Now, this third team, I don't really know how this is going to play out, but I think it's plausible. You got the New York Giants. Of course, the Giants are a huge market. Green Bay is probably the smallest market in the NFL currently. So Aaron Rodgers could go from the smallest market to the biggest market. But as far as the Giants, I know some of you are out there saying, oh, but Daniel Jones. Here's the thing. Daniel Jones has not been overwhelming so far in his career.
No, he hasn't.
The Giants don't owe Daniel Jones anything.
No, they don't.
It's not like he has pushed them to the top of the division. He has not made a playoff run. So if the Giants want to move on from Daniel Jones, it's very easy to do, especially if it means obtaining Aaron Rodgers. So after this season, or for this season, if Daniel Jones wants to keep his job, he is going to have to prove himself to the New York Giants front office.
What about the Patriots?
Yeah, so we got the Patriots on the list. As we know, Cam Newton's on another short-term deal with them. They did just draft Mac Jones, but this is Bill Belichick we're talking about. Who has more patience in the NFL and more ability to produce talent and develop talent than Bill Belichick?
That's right.
Bill Belichick can easily tell Mac Jones, hey, you know what? Sit on the bench, hold the clipboard, listen to everything that Rodgers has to say, write it down, commit it to memory, whatever you have to do. But take notes. He will help you develop into a great quarterback. But in the meantime, we're going to make these pushes with Aaron Rodgers to try to win now.
Yep, exactly. It'd be a smart move. I wouldn't put it past New England being able to pull something like that off.
Now, another team that I have on this list, the last team, the fifth team, that I don't personally think would be that Aaron would want to go to.
No.
I don't think Rodgers would want to go to this team himself. However, you really start looking at this team, and he might want to reconsider. Fifth team I have on the list is the Washington football team. So they have a journeyman quarterback right now in Ryan Fitzpatrick that, as most teams are, they'll probably send him off after the season after he plays pretty well for them. You know, that's how teams tend to do Fitzpatrick. But they don't really have anything else at quarterback right now. I think they've got the Allen kid and the Heineke, who started the playoff game for them last year.
That's right.
So, yeah, they don't really have anything at quarterback. They've got an okay offensive line. That has to get better. But we know they have a tremendous defense. If they can improve the offensive line, they've got weapons at wide receiver. They've got weapons at running back and at tight end. So things could be coming together for the Washington football team. Don't rule them out as a possible landing spot for Aaron Rodgers as he looks for the new place to develop his new neighborhood.
Aaron Rodgers has got all the stroke anyway right now. I mean, you get Randall Cobb brought into the organization. You're calling your shot, doing what you want to do there because that's the only way you're showing up. Organization knows it. They also know the fans want Rodgers there. Rodgers even said he wants to retire a Packer. Trust me,
but
this will get interesting, especially as the season comes.
They are going to have to make wholesale changes as to how they handle their business. But it's different for the Packers, though, because, while they do have a GM, their ownership is different. Yes. Every other team is privately owned. The Packers are actually a publicly traded entity. So their GM has a lot of people to appeal to and answer to. And so it's going to be a weird thing to see how this shakes out for Rodgers. I know one thing, we'll definitely be talking about it all season long. Yeah. So we're talking about Aaron Rodgers and kind of what's going on with his relationship with the Packers, and we know that it is a marriage that's dissolving right before our eyes. Well, while that divorce is happening, there's another marriage that's potentially in the works. So 2 days ago, the Pac-12 and the Big 12 met and had a call to discuss a potential marriage. Now, how this relationship will shake out, we don't really know. It could potentially just be a merger, or it could be a scheduling thing where, one Big 12 school will schedule another Pac-12 school as one of their non-conference games each year for however many years. We don't know how that's going to go down. But Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff, I think I butchered that properly.
That's okay.
But he stated that he was in no hurry to add teams, but he also said that the conference is answering the phone. His actual quote is, "I've got lots and lots of calls from probably every school you would imagine, and probably a few you'd be surprised by. We're listening to all inbound inquiries because it seems like the smart thing to do." And he's not wrong there. But he would go on to say, "I think over time the dominoes will start falling as a result of the move by Texas and Oklahoma. And we are not determined, and we haven't determined to expand in order to thrive. We can thrive at 12. We don't understand that if someone else has 16, you need to have 16. It just doesn't make sense." And that is where he is incorrect. Because it's not just the numbers. It's the quality of the numbers.
That's right.
He's thinking quantity, not quality.
Yep.
Or quality, not quantity. However, the SEC is over here saying we want quantity and quality.
Well, and that's the whole thing. That's the difference. If the SEC would have added, Shrizzle Dizzle over here, we'll get Screwman U University over here, nobody would care. I was like, they're just adding 2 more universities. Nobody really cares. So what? They got 16 teams. Who cares? What's the big deal? But we're talking Texas and Oklahoma,
which are huge, huge power brands.
That's right. So now it is a big deal. That's what he's not getting. I mean, you can add schools to your conference and get up to 16, but who are you bringing in?
Well,
and do they matter?
He's not even saying that he wants to get to 16.
I'm simply saying that this is what he's not understanding about from 12 to 16, that if someone else has 16, you need to have 16. You don't just put 16 in there to have 16. They're putting 16 in there because the schools add to their conference. That's why you do it. Only if it enhances your conference. So if you're going to go to 16 teams, or like the SEC, adding teams to it, they're doing that because it adds to the SEC. It adds to the brand. It adds to the income that those brands are going to bring to your conference.
Especially with the new TV deals.
Yeah, of course.
And
so that's why you do that.
But for the Pac-12, you got to understand, if you stay at 12, you do run the risk of getting left behind, because you are once the Big 12 folds, as we both expect it to eventually, the Pac-12 will be the smallest power conference left.
Yes.
Because the Big 10 has 14. I believe the ACC has 14. The SEC will now have 16, and the Pac-12 just having the 12. The Pac-12 will, stay falling farther and farther and farther behind.
Yep.
Going into the last 2 seasons, common perception across the country has been that the Pac-12 was already one of the weaker conferences anyway. They play later in the day, so they get less eyeballs on them throughout the day. Plus, if you have fewer teams, that's even less teams for people to try to watch. They need to do something, or else old Georgie boy here might be on the outside looking in by the time all this realignment's said and done.
Yeah, they need to be careful about that. You can't just rest on your laurels right now because you see what's happening. You can't just sit there and pretend that it's not and going, well, we're just going to kind of put our feelers out and see what's going on. And I'm not saying you jump into a marriage with somebody else. I'm definitely not saying that, especially if you're just looking at somebody else's leftovers. And that's what you're talking about right here.
Yeah, I mean,
these are the leftovers.
There's
from the powerhouses who decide to get out of the Big 12.
There's no brands to really bring into the Pac-12 outside of maybe Oklahoma State. I mean, that's one that would make sense to bring in. I know people want to talk about Kansas to the Big Ten, but Kansas is god-awful at football.
Yes.
And they're blue blood at basketball.
Oh, yeah,
and basketball is the second highest revenue maker.
Yep.
But basketball doesn't make near the revenue that football does.
No.
It just doesn't. So, I mean, does the Big Ten really want to add Kansas? Iowa State, they're up in football right now. Traditionally, they've been really bad at it. Not really been good at much of anything else either. Once Matt Campbell leaves Iowa State, they're going to go back to being bad again. I don't think the Big Ten wants to be stuck with that brand.
No, they don't.
People keep wanting to talk about West Virginia to the ACC because logistically it makes sense. Logistically, geographically, that move makes sense. The problem is West Virginia does not make money as a school. They have decent teams across a litany of sports. However, they just don't seem to draw in cash. In the ACC, if they want to take in teams, they want to expand, West Virginia is not their number one priority. Their number one priority, without question, is Notre Dame. They'll take Notre Dame and someone else. Or they'll take just Notre Dame, but they're not going to take just West Virginia.
No, that's very, very true. Very, very true.
And the weird thing now is, they brought up that proposal for the college football playoff expansion, going from 4 to 12 teams. However, it's just that. It's just a proposal. And now with the SEC and Greg Sankey pulling off the largest coup that we've seen in our lifetimes, adding Texas and Oklahoma over to that brand, all these other athletic or commissioners of these conferences, whether it's the ACC, the Big Ten, Pac-12, Big 12, whatever, they can all squash the playoff expansion. All they have to do is say, no, we don't want to do that because then the SEC is going to have 5 or 6 teams in there, and we're just not going to let that happen.
SEC is still going to have 2 teams in there. It's still going to have 2 teams in there.
I guess that because the conferences, they get bonus revenue based on, having a school in the playoff. But if you've got the 14 playoff, if the SEC has 2, the SEC as a conference is making twice as much money.
Yeah, so if you're just scared, say you're scared. Call it what you will.
But here's the thing. Well, think about it this way, too. You get into a 12-team playoff, and let's say there's 6 SEC schools in the playoff, and 1 team from 6 other conferences.
Sure.
That makes up your field. Well, now the SEC is making 6 times the money as these other conferences. So they are trying to do what they can to keep the field of college football as level as possible.
Have better teams. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, you're still going to have 2 SEC teams if it's in a field of 4. And that's going to leave other schools out, period, anyway.
Well, depending. It could be
depending.
4. Mostly,
yes. You're going to if we're staying at 4, you're probably going to have 2 SEC teams in there. Look at the history of it. I think that's going to hold out, especially now Texas and Oklahoma are in there. LSU,
well, they're not
Georgia,
there yet.
Bama.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's happening.
2025. That is the company line that they are towing.
They're not making 2025. Don't even.
Well, they won't make 2025 because the Big 12 won't make it to 2025.
No, that's what I'm saying.
However,
it won't be 2025
until that happens. That is the line that they have to toe. Now, most people think Texas and Oklahoma will be in the SEC next year. I think most people think it'll probably be 2023.
That's what
though.
I kind of think. It'd be nice if it was next year, but I think it's going to be 2023.
And that's going to be a whole thing too. Is does it really matter if these two schools join if they just get beat up by the other SEC programs?
I don't think that's going to happen either.
I think it'll happen for Texas more so than Oklahoma.
I think so too. I think Oklahoma's right now more situated to handle it. But again, you still look at the teams in the SEC, and I'm going, okay, well, I know Texas is better than a lot of these teams in there. They're not better than the Alabamas and the LSUs.
Or the Georgias or the Floridas.
Georgia, probably not Florida. But I think with everybody else, they can hold their own on.
They're not better than A&M right now.
I don't think they are either.
They're not better than Oklahoma right now.
As painful as that is for me to say.
So that's at best. Texas is the seventh best team as we're just talking about stuff right now in this moment.
But seventh best out of 16, they're not bottom feeding either, though. So I think there's still a lot of hope, and they've had some pretty good.
This is also a Texas team that you got to remember has struggled recently over the last 2 years. Has struggled with Kansas.
Yep.
God awful Kansas.
That's right.
They've struggled with them. They struggled with Kansas State year in. I say that, but Oklahoma's lost to Kansas State the last 2 years, so there's that.
Steve Sarkisian in there now, though.
Yeah, and I think if there's a coach that can help Texas make that turn, who can actually start developing the talent, because Texas has always recruited well. SEC, just joining the SEC is not going to help Texas in recruiting. They've always killed that. The problem is player development.
And Steve Sarkisian knows SEC-style football.
Right, because he's coming out of Alabama, but he's also got to deal with a bunch of guys who are from that same Nick Saban coaching tree. Kirby Smart over there at Georgia was the defensive coordinator for Alabama.
Yep.
Lane Kiffin, the head coach at Ole Miss, was the offensive coordinator at Alabama directly before Steve Sarkisian. And we've seen Steve Sarkisian as a head coach at USC, and that did not go well.
No.
However, we saw Lane Kiffin as the head coach at USC, and that didn't go well either, and he seems to be doing all right at the University of Mississippi.
So a lot of times it just depends. I mean, and that's my point, though. Who knows? We don't know what we're going to see. I do know this. Regardless of Oklahoma and Texas, you're still going to see two teams out of the SEC in the playoffs probably every year. I mean, because those top four teams out of there are really good.
It depends on who the conference champions are and what the record is. Now, if you've got Ohio State undefeated coming out of the Big Ten, you got Clemson undefeated coming out of the ACC, you got Alabama undefeated coming out of the SEC. Well, if you got Oregon or USC that's undefeated coming out of the Pac-12, they're going to go in as an undefeated conference champion over, one loss Florida or one loss Georgia.
I think if they go in as one loss team and just losing the conference championship,
a conference champion would have to have one loss for another SEC team to get in, and we've seen it. I mean, it happens.
Well, it happens a lot. So that's what I'm saying. I still think there's going to be two SEC teams there because I'd rather take a one-loss SEC team who just lost in the conference championship game over a conference champion of most of these other conferences. They're just that good. So which tells you the power. Going back to it, and the whole point is that's the power of the SEC.
And now it's gotten more powerful with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma.
That's right.
So, but going back to the Big 12, Pac-12 relationship here that could potentially be brewing, what happens if these two conferences decide to do a full tilt merger?
Nothing.
There's 8 teams left. Well, no, listen.
Nothing. The
Pac-12 then expands to 20 teams.
All right.
Now they are making a killing in revenue because you got all these schools in there.
Sure.
However, you got to split that profit several more ways, and you pick up a blue blood in basketball in Kansas.
Yeah.
Although their football's down, but you pick up a good football, basketball, baseball school in Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they would pick up all 8 Big 12 schools that are remaining just because the Pac-12 seems to not have they don't like religious private schools. Although most people say that they should pick up BYU, but BYU is another one of those private religious schools. So who knows how that could shape out. However, I think it's a very intriguing possibility. And if they were to expand to 20 teams before the other conferences, what do the other conferences do? Do they say, hey, we're cool where we are? Or do they start trying to grab some of these top-end group of 5 schools to add in? I think it would be super interesting to see Memphis in the SEC.
Oh,
they're located in the heart of SEC country anyway. It's a major city. It's the biggest city in the state of Tennessee. It's bigger than Knoxville. It's bigger than Nashville for you Tennessee and Vanderbilt fans out there. But to see Memphis actually in the SEC trying to recruit against these other schools, that could be really interesting. They're a small school, though, and they would definitely struggle early and probably struggle for a while.
Yep. I don't care what the Pac-12 does. They can add 74 other teams. I'm not impressed. Lesser power teams and teams with that huge brand recognition. Speaking of talking about the rich getting richer, Quinn Ewers, he was the number one recruit out of Texas.
Yeah, he was the number one recruit out of Texas for the class of 2022.
That's right.
However, he has decided to reclassify. He's moving into the class of 2021 and foregoing his senior year in high school and enrolling early at Ohio State. Yes, that Ohio State. Quinn Ewers was, at one point, he was committed to the University of Texas. He backed off of that commitment, now going with the Buckeyes. And on Twitter, Ewers cited his inability to profit off of his own name, image, and likeness as a high school athlete as one factor in his decision to go ahead and leave Columbus early. His family's not hurting for money. They're actually a fairly wealthy family. So this is just about Quinn Ewers going ahead and forging his own path.
That's all it is. He's using that other as an excuse. Dang what it is.
What do you mean?
I can't make no money as an athlete in high school.
Oh, yeah, in high school.
What am I going to do?
But if I can go ahead and go play college football and make money, why not? And it's not like Quinn Ewers is a 16, 17-year-old kid. He's already 18 years old.
Yes.
So this is a whole different situation than most quarterbacks going to their senior year, because most of them are 17. They're still technically underage. But Quinn Ewers is 18. He's an older guy in the sense that a high school player can be an older guy. The issue for them is going to be going into Ohio State, and you've just got a loaded quarterback room.
Yeah, I know it.
Lots of 4- and 5-star recruits from this year and the previous year.
Because here's what he needs to
Quinn
understand.
Ewers isn't the only 5-star quarterback going into Ohio State this season.
And he needs to understand, just because he's Quinn Ewers, whatever that's supposed to mean, that all of a sudden he's going to be the big man on campus when he gets it. There's a lot of big dudes on campus right now in that quarterback room.
And I think
in that whole organization. Don't believe for a second that just because people are hyped on you right now coming out of Texas that you're going to be somebody going into Ohio State. If you're buried on the depth chart, you know what you're probably not going to do? Make money off your name. Not a whole lot of it.
Well, I don't think he's going to be buried on the depth chart. However, I do expect him to redshirt the season because he's getting in there now.
Sure.
Right before school starts, he hasn't had an off season with the playbook. He didn't spend the summer with the team. He wasn't there in the spring. So look for Quinn Ewers to take a redshirt year of this year. Hit the gym because he's not a very big kid as far as like muscle mass. So I expect him to hit that gym at Ohio State, get some size put on him, spend a year with the playbook and develop, and still have his full 4 years of eligibility going forward after that.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing with Quinn Ewers going early, especially for this NIL, is does this create a new precedent? I mean, college football over the last month has changed wildly. Everything
the last 2 weeks.
Well, I'm talking about going back to July 1 when
Sure.
NIL got ratified.
Yes.
That changes the landscape wildly.
It has.
Now you got conference realignment going on. Now you got Quinn Ewers deciding at the last second, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and go to Ohio State now so I can go ahead and start making this NIL money. Will we see more high school seniors forego that senior year of playing high school football for no money, risking potential injury, when they can go ahead and go to college and start making that money?
I don't know. I don't think you'll see it as much at the high school level. The only reason I don't think that is because there's a lot of recruiting that has to go on. Unless you've been a guy that's been pegged from day one going out there, you're going to have to catch the eye of these recruiters. I mean, so I guess if you're already a superstar in the making, that's an easier. That's something easier to get your arms wrapped around. But if you're one of these kids that, locally we may know you're a stud,
right? I mean,
but we still got to get your name out there.
If you're a 5-star guy, you know your spot's going to be wherever your
That's
scholarships are, wherever you're going to commit to. But think about these 4-star guys, these 3-star guys, even some of your 2-star guys who might have offers already, but who knows if they're where they play and the lack of eyeballs that they have on their high school. What if that keeps them from getting more offers? What if they decide, hey, I need to go ahead and commit now, lock down my spot, and go ahead and go?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Because this is definitely a thing that could be happening, and we could see the value of high school football really drop. I was talking with a guy today, actually, and I don't want to put his name out there, but 5 years ago, he was I don't want to say heavily recruited football player, but he had SEC level offers, so he's doing something right. He was a running back out of North Carolina, and he had offers from schools like Duke and Tennessee. And this man, someone asked him, because there was a few of us in this conversation, and someone asked him, where did you end up signing? Because none of us remembered his name, He said, I ultimately didn't get to sign anywhere because my senior year, first round of the playoffs, tore my ACL, and that was that.
There you go.
All his offers that he had got pulled.
Yep. Sad.
So I think Quinn
sports.
Ewers might really be a trendsetter here, and we could see more of these seniors foregoing their senior year, enrolling in college early. That way, if nothing else, even if something dramatic happens in college where they have a severe injury that they can't bounce back from, they have at least been provided with an opportunity to at least make some kind of money.
Sure. I mean, that's what it's all about anyway. There's no love of the sport anymore. It's all about the money. Make that money. That's what it seems like. And that's what's being put out there. Money, 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 money. And that's what you're making here. And that's what's going to entice these young kids because that's all they see.
Well, especially if they've never had
dollar
it.
Signs. Well, sure, well, for some of these athletes who never had it, absolutely it's going to be that way. But for like Quinn Ewers, his family comes from money. He's got money. So, now who knows how they handle that at home and all that other situation. Who even knows? But the thing with that is I don't mind them leaving early from high school to go to college because you still have to end up with your high school degree to get into college.
Yep.
Whichever way that is, whether you just go for and get your GED out of it, then go into college, however that's taken care of. I mean,
Quinn Ewers he nailed down a few little classes that he had to have over the summer and knocked them out.
So
ready to go.
I don't have as big a problem with that. I just really don't. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It's just the funny part to me though is going to these schools to where I'm about to make money because a lot of this, again, I guarantee a lot of this comes from Bama. To where when you see that kid coming in, he's almost making 7 figures right now. I think it was $800,000 or something like that.
Last time we've checked.
I mean, making money has never taken a snap at.
He's taken some snaps. He's just never had a start.
He's never had to start, right? So, but this dude's making that kind of money out there. So,
but that's the Bama brand. So your half schools, Alabama, Ohio State, USC, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, like these kinds of schools, Michigan. I don't want to leave them out. They'll have that ability to where as soon as you get on campus, if you're playing, especially if you're playing a power position like quarterback, there will be enough endorsement deals being thrown at you that you can go ahead and make that money. Issues for some people are going to be, they can't do what Quinn Ewers did. Like, you may not have the academics to graduate early to go to campus. You might have to have that senior year of high school just to get your grades up to get there. And then, for guys that are maybe a 3-star prospect and maybe their best offer is like a lower Big 12 school or a lower Pac-12 school or a lower ACC or SEC, that might be their best offer where they can go play. And maybe those schools aren't really, rolling in the endorsements, although each school typically has enough booster somewhere that these guys are going to get paid somehow.
All these big colleges are going to do that. Even the smaller colleges have boosters like that. The biggest thing comes if these guys are sitting out their senior year or just sitting out and they don't go directly to college just because I'm afraid I may get hurt and then, can't make money at the college level off the NIL deals. And then these scouts are like, well, we haven't seen any tape of you in over a year and stuff. And, you were great your junior year, but, these other guys have grown bigger. What's happening here? Because that's the funny thing about your body. You develop, people all develop differently. Some develop quicker, some are slower. Or you just happen to be the lead dog in a group of people who are developing slower, and all of a sudden over the summer they've gotten bigger and faster, and now you're maybe not quite the stud that you were beforehand. Who knows? Yeah, that's the big thing to me.
And we see players in college who are getting ready to go pro who won't play in their bowl game or may not play the last few games of the season because they're just focused on getting ready for the NFL. This is one of those situations that we could definitely see shaking out.
Absolutely. What about these Nittany Lions, dude?
Yeah, they're potentially back on the prowl, as the headline says. last season was bad for the Nittany Lions.
Very bad.
Very
much bad.
Now, they kind of turned things around towards the end of the year. They started off 0-5. They won their last 4, though, to bring their record up to 4-5. However, for James Franklin and company, for that university, for that football program, that's unacceptable. They know it. We all know it. Because Penn State, that's another one of those historically great college teams. So despite them having that bad record last year, they followed up by having a really bad recruiting class this year. Something that's definitely hurt them. They finished outside the top 25 in this recruiting cycle. Now, they have had a massive turnaround for the 2022 recruiting cycle, and so far they have the most ESPN 300 commitments of any FBS program. So recently, ESPN 300 safety Christian Driver was the latest to commit to the Nittany Lions on last Thursday, giving the program 13 ESPN 300 commitments in the class. Now, Christian is the son of former Packers wide receiver and former Aaron Rodgers teammate, Donald Driver. So Christian is currently ranked number 180 overall, and he chose Penn State over offers from Alabama, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and others. He's a 6-foot, 185-pound safety. He's from Liberty Christian School in Denton, Texas, and he's the 6th ESPN 300 commitment for Penn State in the month of July. So he joins defensive ends Danny Dennis Sutton, Tyrese Fearby, running back Nicholas Singleton, and Katron Allen, and defensive tackle Zane Durant to commit this month. So the Penn State staff, they were also able to get a commitment in July from 4-star corner Cam Miller, who is currently ranked outside of the top 300. So this coaching staff signed only 4 ESPN 300 commitments in the entire 2021 cycle. And that's something that Coach Franklin said was not up to the standard of where Penn State recruits. And I think that's something we can all agree with. They're one of the better Big Ten schools. They're not Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think right now I would take Penn State over Michigan. They've had more recent success than Michigan and Michigan State. So Penn State seems to be back on the upswing. Might be in for another rough season this year, but next season they could possibly be looking to bounce back. I think currently, as it stands, prior to Quinn Ewers reclassifying, they had the number 3 class going into the 2022 recruiting cycle. But once Quinn Ewers reclassified to 2021, it dropped Ohio State's overall recruiting class down, and it bumped up Penn State, who has now gone up to number 1, jumping Ohio State and Notre Dame.
So, looking at some of this stuff, and you see these people making moves, but that's the thing, kind of with some of these commitments. All right, some of them never pan out, and dealing in college football and all the things that happen there, you never know, because you're dealing with family issues, you're dealing with so many different things that cause a commit to go to a school or decide, I'm not going to that school. You look at Driver. You have all these conferences down here trying to get him, then he goes to Penn State. That's what he commits to. Right? So I just think it's funny about what all happens there. And then when people act surprised when they decommit and then all of a sudden commit to another school, they don't all of a sudden commit to another school. They've been looking at that. They're just back and forth on really where they want to go, honestly, from the heart.
We say that Texas just had a prospect in visiting them this past week, because Texas did a big pool party recruiting type event thing where they brought in a bunch of prospects they were looking at. And one of the kids that they brought in he decommitted, and recommitted to different schools. I think it was 3 different schools over the course of like 3 or 4 days.
So he don't know what he wants to do.
So, yeah, dude has no idea what he wants to do. And that's the thing. Like,
this new shiny thing looks good.
Well, you're telling high school kids who have to ask permission to use the bathroom to make a decision for the rest of their life.
Well, exactly.
It's a big deal. If you're not constantly giving them enough run to make their own decisions, why would you expect them to be able to commit 100% to something when they're a sophomore or a junior?
Well, and that's the whole thing with all that. So it's just funny to me. We're talking about a power play. Let's go back to the Big 12 real quick.
All right.
Because this is funny. This news came out earlier. This is hilarious. I mean, because you're talking about being salty because of Texas and OU going to the SEC. Dude, they sat there and straight took Texas's ability to vote in the playoff, really.
Yeah, so what happened is that the Big 12, they had another meeting, and after Texas has announced that they're leaving the Big 12 and they're headed to the SEC, their AD, Chris Del Conte, he was basically taking off the college football playoff selection committee for the Big 12. He has been replaced with Kansas State athletic director Gene Taylor, and that was announced yesterday.
That's right.
Now, one college football playoff spokesman told ESPN that the Big 12, which has the capacity to name its representative, made the decision to replace Del Conte. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby has publicly criticized the secretive process that led to his flagship programs leaving the SEC. And hey, who can blame him? I mean, you've been working with Greg Sankey for months on different projects, and the whole time Greg Sankey's dealing behind your back to steal your top two schools from you.
Right.
And of course, Del Conte was not available immediately for comment. However, Bowlesby stated, given what has occurred, we felt we would better be represented by another of our ADs, which honestly, the way it reads to me is that they're saying that Chris Del Conte is not a man of integrity.
Yeah.
They're going after his character and saying that he can't be trusted, and with Texas going to the SEC, that it would be a conflict of interest on his part because he might try to undermine the Big 12 in order to better service the SEC.
Or another way you could look at it is, I'm sad because this is what they did to us, so I'm just going to pull you, and you're not playing with us no more until you're just going to have to sit there in the corner until your time is up. They basically are trying to put Texas in a timeout. That's all this is. This is hurt feelings. This is being butthurt. And again, like you said earlier, I don't disagree that, hey, look, yeah, it's kind of a shady, underhanded deal. However, if your conference was booming, this would never have happened. But it wasn't.
Now, Gene Taylor, who was nominated by the Big 12 and approved by the 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Jack Swarbrick, he will serve a 3-year term. According to CFP executive director Bill Hancock, he said that Gene is well respected and he'll be an excellent member of the committee. We look forward to welcoming him to the group. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Gene Taylor, he served as Kansas State AD since 2017, with the Wildcats reaching 3 bowl games during his tenure and knocking off Oklahoma twice in the process. He previously served as deputy AD at Iowa from 2014 to 2017, which might be another reason that Bob Bowlesby likes him, because Bob Bowlesby was at one point the AD at Iowa. He also served as the AD at North Dakota State from 2001 to 2014.
And now it's time. That part of the show that I've been looking forward to. It's time for the Drizzler Awards and the Big Kahuna Awards. I mean, these are great. And we thought this did not take us very long to decide who these awards were going to this week. It's pretty easy.
Oh yeah,
these a slam dunk.
Were self-explanatory.
They really are.
So, with no further ado, let's get into it. Here's this week's Drizzler.
JT Abe.
eBay.
He's not the eBay I shop on, buddy. This dude right there, though, the way he handled himself is a lot like shopping on eBay sometimes, though. Because, dang, you don't go in there and crush a dude and injure a player the way that he did.
Your teammate. It's one thing to hit a player and hurt a player. It's another thing when it's your teammate on the first day of padded practice.
That's right.
Especially when you've been working your entire life to get to this point, to try to make an NFL team. You're an undrafted free agent rookie. People already, you're the bottom man on the totem pole. It's
That's
just
right.
how it goes. But, I mean, just an absolutely vicious hit on Keith Kirkwood, knocking him, I mean, to the point that he had to be hospitalized.
Yes.
It's one thing when you hit somebody and they accidentally get injured. It's another thing when they have to go to the hospital.
He's saying he was in the moment. I was so in the moment.
Yeah, so Matt Rule, of course, was so upset that he went ahead, cut JT eBay after the practice ended. Now, eBay did apologize. Like Chad was saying, I was so in the moment, I didn't even realize it. I just saw the ball and him, and I wanted to interrupt it, trying to separate the man from the ball.
Yep.
Which is how I grew up watching football. It wasn't me aiming for his head. It was just me trying to jar the ball out. However, it's the very first training camp padded practice. Throttle it back, man. It's a long season. It's a long run. You got 17 regular season games now. I know you have a limited period to prove yourself, but
and you know they had that conversation.
That's just not the way to do it.
They had that conversation.
Oh, they had to.
All these teams have that same
leading
conversation.
into training camp. Yeah, they definitely had that conversation.
Look, we got padded practice, but look, this is what we do. We're still being safe. We got all of our guys there on opening day, so this is what we do and this is what we don't do. And here you go.
Now,
it's so sad.
Now, eBay did go on to say, hey, man, I felt bad. I looked at him when I landed, and I just felt bad. I asked the trainers to tell him I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hit him like that. It wasn't intentional at all, and I'm praying he's okay. Obviously, I'm in an emotional state right now, but at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about Keith being okay. So, I mean, that's the right thing to say. However, the fact is, you have to control as a professional football player.
Yeah.
You got to do this in college too, but you definitely have to do it at the professional level. You have to be able to measure yourself. You got to measure your hits, where you're, not only how hard you hit a player, but exactly where you're hitting them.
Yep. That's tough, man. That's tough. But sadly, you found yourself as this week's Drizzler Award. The very first Drizzler
of the season.
That's it. But now we got the Big Kahuna, and what a power play this was, talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, Big Kahuna Award for this week can be none other than Aaron Rodgers.
Hands down.
So you wanted to talk about the energy that he walked into camp with. I mean, he seems to be living his best life because he knows that it's over soon.
That's right.
Whether it's his football career or if it's his time with the Packers, he knows that this journey he's on is over, so he's trying to enjoy every step of it.
Oh, yeah.
And he decided to go out there, air every grievance he's ever had with the Packers, as we stated earlier.
That was great.
Completely ran them into the ground for everything that he's felt like they've ever done wrong, because he knew the entire time, at the end of the day, nothing was happening to him, because he is the franchise.
That's right. And he gets his old teammate brought back off another team. And when I come back, this dude's got to come too.
And then David Bakhtiari bought him a custom golf cart to ride around in.
Like, dude, this is so sad. This is sad of the Green Bay front office.
Yeah, it's sad for the Packers. It is not sad
Green
for
Bay
Aaron
front
Rodgers.
office. You're the runner-up Drizzler of the week, though, because good Lord.
But this isn't about the Drizzler. This is about the Big Kahuna. So number 12, Aaron Rodgers, 3-time league MVP and the current league MVP, is our first ever Big Kahuna Award winner for the Undefined Blitz.
Good job, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, well played. Well played. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in to the very first episode of the Undefined Blitz. A lot of fun talking. We will be doing this every Thursday. Now, look, week 0 comes around. We're going twice a week. We're doing Mondays and Thursdays, so just be sure you follow us, like, subscribe. You can go to our Undefined Blitz Facebook.
It's the Undefined Blitz on Facebook.
You can go to Undefined_Blitz on Twitter
and
on
Instagram. It's the same handle.
YouTube, Undefined Blitz. Give us a subscribe and a follow if you want to watch the show, which you're more than welcome to do that. Or wherever you listen to podcasts, download the show, give us feedback. You can give us feedback on any of these channels. We really appreciate it. And help us grow this channel. We love talking football.
If you enjoyed the program, just like it, share it, follow, subscribe, whatever you got to do. Let's help spread the word, and we'll grow however we can and keep making the show bigger and better every single time.
And the more we get used to doing it, the better it's going to be too. Because this is our first one, really dedicated. We're going football. We're doing this full tilt, and it's going to be year round. Just during the season, we're doing it twice a week. So get ready for it. We appreciate you guys and gals tuning in. For JC, this is Chad. See you next week.